Good morning. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbos.
I feel like I'm ready for my nap, but I have to wait a little bit longer. Friends, good to see you. Shabbat Shalom for our friends online who are nice and warm and dry. I'm glad that you're online with us, and for our friends in the sanctuary, welcome and good Shabbos. Let's begin again. We're going to begin with Hine Matov. You can find it on page 128. And remember, if you have a prayer book that has 2 page numbers in it, you're following the page number in blue brackets. And we begin on 128. And join along.
Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, sheverachim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, sheverachim gam yachad. Let's try it again, but with all of your voices. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, sheverachim gam yachad. 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 Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, sheverachim gam yachad.
Well, as we do whenever we gather, I'm going to invite you to turn to someone you don't know and introduce yourselves. Wish a Shabbat Shalom. If you're not ready to shake hands, that's okay, but it's okay to meet somebody new and share a name. Lovely. Thank you. We turn back again. 120. Page 120. We're going to invite our friends, representatives from the Woodcraft and Mermelstein family. I'm not sure who's going to be coming up, but we invite all 4 of yous. You. Lovely. So we have 2, 3, 4. Awesome. Awesome. Well, then we invite you folks to light the candles, and we'll share blessings together on 120.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lecha ligner shel
Friends, we'll ask you to rise as you are able. We turn the page to 123. We continue with our Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ברצבנו, ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen.
לחיים.
L'chaim. Can we turn to your seats? We turn forward again, 138, 139. Lecha Dodi, the prayer of our mystics from Tzfat up in the north of Israel, trying to help us find a way to have some hope again after all of the challenges that they experienced. How do they help us find hope? Is to connect with the Sabbath bride. So we continue with the first 5 stanzas. After the 5th one, we jump to the very last one. When we reach the 9th one, our custom here is to rise, face the open doors in the back of our sanctuary, and symbolically we welcome the Sabbath bride into our midst. 138.
לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבורך, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתחילה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה, קומי צאי מתוך ההפיכה. רב לך שבט בעמק הבכה, והוא יחמול עלייך חמלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התנערי מעפר קומי, נפשין בידי תפארתך עמי. על יד בן ישי בית הלחמי, קורבה אל נפשי גאלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי. אורי עלייך נגלה לחדותי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לחדותי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה וצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה לחדותי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לחדותי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה.
Let's be seated. 142.
Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Malach, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. בואכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון, ממלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. שלום עליכם, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון, ממלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. שלום עליכם, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. צאתכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון, ממלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. שלום עליכם, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We invite you to rise as you are able. 146.
Yai la lai 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 lai. Yai la lai 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 lai.
Yai,
Hi, lai, 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 yai, hi, lai, 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 yai, lai, 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 hi, lai, 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 lai.
Yai,
Hi, lai, 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 yai, hi, lai, 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 yai, lai, 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 yai, lai, lai. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Let's turn to page 151, the bottom of the page, and we can read together. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
May be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך. וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, emet.
Let's read again on 157 and join with me. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there's a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Let's turn the page.
Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh. Nora tehilot, osef ele, Nora tehilot, osef ele, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Malchutecha ra'u v'anecha, bokei hayam livnei Moshe uMiriam, ze Elianu ve'amru, ze Elianu ve'amru, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh. Nora tehilot, osef ele, Nora tehilot, osef ele, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. ונאמר כי דבר אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Let's turn the page. We begin with the English on 161, then we turn to the Hebrew on 160, and then it goes back again.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, leshalom. V'ha'amidenu, shomrenu lechayim. Ufros aleinu, sukat shomecha. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, leshalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
With a breath, we move into the Tefillah 164, and again we rise as we are able.
Adonai sefatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotinu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chasdei Avot v'Imaot, Umevii Geula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, mechayei hakol atah rav le'hoshia. Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, mechakel chayim bechesed, mechayei hakol berachamim rabim. Somech noflim verofeh cholim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato lishenei afar. Mi chamocha ba'al gevurot, umido melach, melech meimit, umechayeh, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman atah lehachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh, v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom, yehalelucha salah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
May be seated. Let's read again, 173, page 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. And may all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. 178. We need a prayer for peace.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
Take some time for our own personal prayer. If you'd like to follow in the prayer book, in the Siddur, you can turn to pages 179 through 181. Remember, if you have 2 pages numbers, it's the blue brackets. That's how we follow along. Or you can take some time for your own private prayer. We'll come together again in the middle of 180 in a few moments.
יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי וגואלי. אדוני צורי וגואלי. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי וגואלי. אדוני צורי וגואלי. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי וגואלי. אדוני צורי וגואלי.
Let's turn to the middle of 371, page 371. And if you were able to pick up one of our handouts, in that middle column, you'll see lots of names that have been shared with us. These are folks that have turned to us asking for some support, some prayer for their loved ones or for themselves. So as we move into this prayer for healing and wholeness, we take some time to hold their names along with those that we take for ourselves. If you'd like to share a name out loud, we invite you just to lift them up and share them out in this sanctuary. You can just call them out.
Wendy Schreiber, Tali Reichler,
Ellen Schneider.
So for those on the page, for those in the hearts, those that we've shared out loud, we share a little bit of love and strength with them. 371 in the middle of the page.
Mi shebeirach avoteinu mekor habracha laimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu mekor habracha la'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
So I was kind of thinking about what I might share for today. And it's the thing that keeps jumping out at me is how interesting it is of how things change as some of us grow older. I know some of us aren't, and that's okay. Congratulations. But most of us are actually growing older. Some will grow a little bit more liberal, some will grow a little more conservative. Our lived experiences can transform our views, or even the gifts, or for some of us, the baggage that our parents have given to us. We can, oh, that one hit. There's a lot of ways that we change and figure out who we are and who do we become and what is it that's important to us. And for me, something that I've shared often over the years is I kind of loved growing up in a Jewish home. In my house, there was Jewish art everywhere, and there was Jewish books, and we played Israeli music on records. Yeah, most of you know what that is. We danced Israeli folk dances after our Shabbat dinners. We broke out guitars and we sang. My lullabies when I was a child was, and I didn't know this at the time, but these are my lullabies. Think about the propaganda. I mean, all of the information, the sharing that was in my home. My lullabies was actually the evening service, the whole service. And I sang the whole service, but it wasn't all traditional, like Nusach melodies of synagogues. It was from camps and youth movements. All the music from Debbie Friedman and Cantor Jeff Klepper and Michael Isaacson, the Jewish music makers of the 70s, who had an incredible impact on American Judaism and American Jewish music. More than American Jewish music, American Jewish prayer. So in other words, everything around me was Jewy. Everything in my house had some Jewish connection. And then I grew up on Long Island. So everything out of my house also was Jewish. And now I live in Boulder. And it's a little different, right? Colorado is a little bit different. There are no Jewish neighborhoods. There's not Jewish food everywhere. There's some bougie Jewish food on Pearl Street, but it's kind of hard to access and to connect to unless we're going to make a real effort to find it. So it's a very different way of how I grew up and the kind of rabbis that I saw, the rabbis that I wanted to model after and the ones that I didn't. And now in this 21st century Judaism, I'm wrestling what to do with how to rabbi. And every once in a while, I share this with you because I need your help. And part of what has been kind of needling me a little bit is an article that came out this past week. There was, maybe a year ago, there was a census of Jewish families in religious school education programs in America. And in these congregational and day school education programs, enrollment decreased nationally by 41% from 2006 to 2007 to 2019 to 2020. If we compare those 2 years, religious school enrollment, either through synagogues or day schools, decreased 41%. So a lot of folks are trying to figure out, what does that really mean? What is it that we have to do? What are the thoughts behind those declines? And a lot of it, we kind of know. We know because we've seen it as true in our congregation. Before COVID, we had under 100 kids in our program. So maybe the last 18 months we've grown. So now we're closer to 180. That's lovely. But in another study in 2019 for Denver and Boulder and other parts of Colorado, we found that in Boulder County, only 15% of eligible children are enrolled in a supplemental Jewish education program. And there are no day schools in Boulder County. There was one once upon a time, but it closed before I arrived, and I'm here, 9 years or so. The other piece that's interesting to me in terms of numbers, I'll share one other, is that 6% of eligible children are enrolled in a Jewish preschool program. Because as of today, there's only one Jewish preschool in Boulder County, and it's at the JCC. The thing that we have seen over the years increasing more and more is that bat mitzvah is a finish line. Instead of figuring out what it might be to create a rich Jewish life. Now, once upon a time, I would have looked at this and have said, oh, this is terrible, the Jewish community is not doing its part, and like the rabbis for me, I think I would have judged kind of harshly a lot of folks that are out there, whatever that means. But I don't think that this is terrible. I don't. I think it's an opportunity. I think it's terrible that lots of Jewish organizations, institutions, and synagogues haven't yet realized that they're in the 21st century. We're still organizing and doing things Jewishly in organizations and synagogues the way it was done in the 1950s. Now, I think in our congregation, we've done a lot of interesting things that are going on differently in recent years. There's no question about it. But what our studies are learning, and one community in Cleveland dug a little bit deeper into why is this enrollment decreasing so dramatically, and they found that families aren't really interested in God, Torah, or Israel. They are invested in community, values, and traditions. But God, Torah, and Israel sounds hard, inaccessible, a little scary, and something that might make me insecure about not being one of the good Jews because I'm not doing everything right. And I wish we could let go of so much of that, so much of what was given to us, some of us, along with the inspirations, because I think there's lots of ways to be Jewish and do Jewish. And I've been sharing that a lot. But it's very different for me now than when I started first being ordained in 2001. I think the whole Jewish community has changed. And I think it's complicated. And I'm not pessimistic. I feel challenged. There are days I want to retire. But we have an opportunity because all of these people who are not necessarily enrolling kids in religious schools, they still want to be Jewish. They are still looking for something, maybe something they can't all articulate. But there are values and ideals and traditions that they want to maintain. But religion in America, I think sometimes because of our evangelical neighbors, sometimes it just feels very authoritative. And organized religion sometimes is something that people don't want anything to do with. To which I always say, I'm not that organized. But if I look at some of this information, I'm naturally going to think, what's a rabbi supposed to do? The first thing I'm supposed to do is I have to look at the Torah portion. This is my segue, right? Did you catch that? So the Torah portion is Tzav, which is in the beginning of the book of Leviticus, and it's all about sacrifices. Yeah, nothing's there for this topic. So if it's not going to be in the Torah, I'm going to go to the Haftarah. And the Haftarah, we don't know when it started, but our ancient ancestors started a public reading of the Torah. And at some point after that, they said, well, the Torah is really cool, but so is this middle section of the Hebrew Bible, the prophets. So while we read chronologically, Torah portion after Torah portion, right, going in order, the Haftarah is going to be like popcorn. We're going to bounce all around, connecting it in theme. Because Tzav is about sacrifice, we read from the prophet Jeremiah something that I never really picked up before. He talks about sacrifice. But what he says, this prophet, the one who is a witness to the destruction of the first temple in Jerusalem, he says that God wants us to eat all of the sacrifices, including the burnt offerings. Now, for some of us, that might sound like, so what? That doesn't make any sense to me. But the burnt offerings in Leviticus are instructed us to be totally consumed by fire. It's only for God. And it's for the most significant of things, this type of worship to get closer to God. So Jeremiah the prophet is saying, yeah, you can actually eat that along with all of the other sacrifices, which is kind of a big and bold statement for biblical Judaism. And I've always just kind of passed over it. And then he says, after this, he says something else that's really interesting. He says, when the ancient Israelites were brought out of Egypt, God did not tell them to start sacrificing. Remember, sacrifice was their mode of worship. Sacrifice in Hebrew is a korban. Korban in it has karov, which means near. So these were offerings and gifts to get closer to God. Not like other tribes in the neighborhood where they wanted to feed God to keep the gods away from them. This was a gift to draw closer. But Jeremiah says, it's not really about the sacrifices. It's about being righteous. It's about stepping up for your people. It is about taking ownership and drawing closer to God through your actions. It says, "For when I freed your ancestors from the land of Egypt, I didn't speak with them or command them concerning burnt offerings or sacrifice. This is what I commanded them. Do my bidding, that I may be your God and you may be my people. Walk only in the way that I join upon you, that it may go well for you." And I found that so interesting, because what it tells me is, this isn't a new challenge for the Jewish community today. This was going on since Jeremiah. Jeremiah is saying that God really wanted people to get connected and to take care of each other. The sacrificial offerings and all of these prayers and stuff, it came a little bit later because we couldn't focus. We didn't have a way to actually remember that we should do God's bidding. That's a very scary kind of a sentence. I'd rather talk about connecting. If God wanted us to walk in God's ways, all of these other traditions that some people are going to refer to as laws are there to help guide us, refine us, make us think. For me, all of those laws are really interesting, but I don't find them to be binding. I don't observe Jewish law, which is why I'm in a Reform synagogue, because I don't believe that halakha is actually binding today. But I do believe that mitzvot, our sacred Jewish responsibilities and obligations, I'm going to choose how I'm going to be obligated. And I'm going to play them out that way. So these traditions and mitzvot and values and midot, those, how do you say midot? Soul traits that we have, like patience and kindness or loyalty or self-esteem, all of these soul things, attributes that are godly that we have too. Focusing on those things with a Jewish lens helps me to be better. I think that's what it's about. It helps me be better. Jewish law says I have to say Baruch Hu in a certain way. I'm not so sure that God cares. But I think I care. And when we get to sing some of these prayers together, there's a different kind of power that emerges that's a little bit beyond myself. And I can connect with you. And I can connect with those who came before all of us. And I even connect with those who are not here but will come after us. And all of that helps me to connect to the Holy One. For me, that's God. I think it's really easy for us just to focus on our tasks and to-do lists. And it's hard to do anything meaningful when life has made me feel cranky. I'm just talking about myself. But it's those moments when I need these traditions, and frankly, you the most, when I'm feeling a little cranky, so that I can step forward and strive to be a real human being. And it takes work to activate my humanity. The ending in Jeremiah, because I know you're dying to hear, it says, "Thus says the Holy One." And it's actually a nice quote. "Let not the wise glory in their wisdom. Let not the strong glory in their strength. Let not the rich glory in their riches. But only in this should one glory, in being earnestly devoted to me. For I, God, act with kindness, justice, and equity in the world. For in these I delight, says God." So all of those people that are out there that are not enrolling their children in religious school, they might be choosing a different path. Maybe they're not choosing any path. But I think the opportunity for us is, How do we connect with folks? And it doesn't only have to be, this is how I want you to be Jewish, but I'm going to help you choose your path. You want to join a synagogue? Great. You want to join the JCC? Great. It's not really about membership. It's about how do we show up for one another. Maybe there are other issues that you are concerned about. How can we activate our Judaisms? And that's a really challenging question. And look, I'm in the synagogue business. I want people to be here. I need a job, so that's one. But even more than that, I think there's something special that can happen in places like this if we want it to, and if we participate in that. Last thing that I wanted to share, and then I have a question. I've been learning a lot about Judaism and modernity recently, and something that's a new revelation for me, no pun intended, is that Judaism became a religion maybe in the 18th century. Before Judaism becomes a religion, it was a way of life. But in Germany, in Prussia, there is a Protestant movement that is emerging. And Jews were finally at the moment of getting emancipated, freed, and they could be citizens for the first time. And it wasn't so easy. And part of how they said, I can be a good citizen, is if Judaism is just my religion, my inward, private, spiritual something, and I could be a good German. That's how we become a religion. Before then, it was a whole way of life. And now we look at Judaism and Jewishness kind of in two different ways. One is a spiritual, one is a cultural. One might be religious, one might be about traditions. And we get to pick whatever it is that we want. I don't think that's necessarily bad. I'm hopeful that people can make choices and find a way that is going to link them. So I'm going to ask you to do one of those annoying things we do a lot in services these days. I'm going to ask you to turn to someone and someone preferably that you don't know, but it can be somebody you do know. If you don't want to play, look down at your prayer book, pretend you're praying. If you want to play, then you can figure out with who your neighbor would be and share with them what brought you here tonight. And you can share as much or as little as you want in 2 minutes, right? You can share a part of the truth. It doesn't have to be the whole truth if that's too vulnerable. But I'm going to ask you what brought you here tonight. And there's another question. What makes you connected to your Judaism or Jewishness? And I'm going to remind you not to assume that the person next to you is going to be Jewish, right? You can be connected to Judaism, Jewishness, or Jewish community. And we get to share whatever might feel meaningful or relevant to us. So what brought you here tonight? And what makes you connected or interested in your Judaism, your Jewishness, and Jewish community? And the last thing is, what do you need from your Jewish community? What do you need? Those are your questions. You have a couple of minutes to share, each of you. If you don't want to play, pray in your prayer book, meditate, close your eyes, and we'll leave you alone. But I hope that you will be a little vulnerable and connect with someone that is nearby. Go. You can turn around. You can even do it in groups of 3 or 4, but you have to go quick. Huh? Okay. Well, friends, I hope you met somebody new. I hope you had a nice conversation. We could keep going, but, some of you might want to have dinner. I'm grateful that you engaged in this conversation, because it's a conversation we need to have. And it's a conversation that we need to figure out, how do you share it even with us? And you can, if you have something that you feel is really important, send it to me. I'd love to hear it. Not now, but after Shabbat. If you can't wait till after Shabbat, fine. I won't look until after Shabbat. I'll pretend you didn't send it during Shabbat. But that's fine, because there's different ways to be Jewish, right? So, kidding aside, we want to hear from you, because we want a community where people feel like this is where I can own it, and that takes practice. So we're gonna have a moment to reflect with the cantor, with another melody, another prayer, and then we'll conclude our service.
Rabbi Green, is it okay if I poke fun at you? No. Rabbi Green changed sermon topics on me, but it was beautiful. So I don't have the words for you in front of you, the English words, but the Hebrew text is on 178. And the whole time you were speaking, Rabbi, I was thinking of these words. It's a melody of Shalom Rav by Alana Arian, who, by the way, is coming here in 2 weeks, and we're going to have a really great, wonderful musical weekend with her. She's an incredible Jewish singer-songwriter, one of my favorite Jewish singer-songwriters. So I just think that this text is really beautiful. So I'm going to sing the English text, and then I'm going to teach you the Hebrew text. You know it's Shalom Rav, but it's a different melody. Make of us. Oh, wait, sorry. If you were at choir practice last night, it is your obligation to sing, because we did this last night. Make of us a house for all people. Gather us in hope for all people. Surround us in peace for all people, in wholeness and in love. And then we're going to go into the Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Let's give that a try. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Let's try the Shalom Rav part again. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Make of us a house for all people. Gather us in hope for all people. Surround us in peace for all people, in wholeness and in love. Give that part a try. Make of us a house for all people. Gather us in hope for all people. Surround us in peace for all people, in wholeness and in love. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. One more time. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Beautiful.
586 at the bottom of the page. Let's move to conclude. We ask you to rise as you are able. 586, the bottom paragraph, and then we will jump to 591.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
591.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
May be seated. Zichronam levracha, may their memories be for a blessing. If you are observing a yard site is the anniversary of one's death, or if you are in a period of mourning, we invite you, if you choose, to rise for a moment, share the name of the one whom you are remembering, and then we'll continue with additional names from the community. In addition to those names, we remember the following in the period of Shloshim, those first 30 days. Estelle Brink, the mother of Leslie Scharf, and we also just learned that Leslie lost her aunt, Pearl Levine. We remember Howard Teller, the cousin of Carla Reese. We remember Winifred Huffman, the mother of Sandy Huffman. Diane Kruzek, the mother-in-law of Tony Velasquez. Tony is with us each week to help us with our security. And we remember Senator Joe Lieberman. Those yard sites for this week, we remember Dora Ergas Aruti, Rita Biederman, Benjamin Berger, Buddy Bleich, Esther Botansky, Bertha Cooperstock, Dick Klotz, Cecile Schwartz Lazar, Wilbur Matz, Isidore Million, Stanley Nussbaum, Paul Peck, Marvin Plotkin, Joan Robbins, Joseph Rosenblum, Morton Schneider, Shari Rosenthal Wallach, Frank Young. Kaddish is on page 598. We stand together, shoulder to shoulder, supporting our friends who are a Kaddish this Shabbat. 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabah, v'alma divrach yiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayechon v'yom echon, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ומרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן ויאמה וימרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל וימרו amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and all who hurt, here and everywhere. We say amen. May be seated. Friends, we have a closing prayer, the very last couple of lines of our Kaddish, or on page 180. We have lots of things that are happening and coming up. Please take a look at the handout if you're interested. There's incredible music that's coming. There's learning that's coming. If you don't check your emails, or if you tend not to read the emails that come from me, today might be one that you want to check out. We hope that you'll take a look. And lastly, I know that for some in our community, we haven't made everybody's name tags yet, but we are working on it. But if you're filled it out yourself, or if your name was here, we want you to put it back in the basket so that we can refile them, reuse them, because we really don't trust you to take them home and bring them back again. So there's a basket right by the door, and now whenever we come in, we're going to be using these name tags to make sure that we can feel like this is a place where we belong.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו
to you. Wish your neighbors a Shabbat Shalom. Let's bring our prayer books back to those racks. And if you're able to stay for a nash, we'll make a motzi out in the social hall.